Can you really survive 40 days without food? Or is that just an old legend? Let's break down the science because an ego spiritual death and actual death from starvation are not quite the same thing. All right, here are the ground rules. So, obviously, rule number one, no food, 40 days, i.e., 0 calories whatsoever are consumed. But we are going to say water's okay. So we can drink as much water as possible. Rule number 3, because we want to make sure that this would actually be feasible with a little bit of movement in. So we're going to say we must walk 1 mile a day. And last but not least, science must prove every assumption that we make. So here's our test subject here. This is going to be Mr. Josh. Here's his stats. He's 5'10", about 185 pounds, and about 20% body fat. He's a healthy dude, as you can tell by his sweet bicep peaks there. And he's going to be embarking on this journey, so let's see how he does. All right, before we get started, we got to do some math to figure out what his stats are going to be, because we want to track his stats and his health along the way. So we're going to figure out his energy expenditure. So first we're going to figure out his basal metabolic rate. There's 3 different formulas to figure this out. So I added these up and averaged them, and his BMR is going to be 1858. So that's the calorie expenditure that he's going to be using just staying alive, beating his heart, supplying energy to his brain, repairing his tissues, all that kind of stuff. Second part, thermic effect of food, is going to be 0 because he's not eating anything. Sweet, good job. Activity, we're going to say 125. This is what I estimated for walking 1 mile. He's about 180 pounds, and I did not say a brisk pace because I think he's going to be walking pretty slow. And then the rest of the day, he's just going to be sitting on his butt and thinking about food. So this is his total energy expenditure every single day. He's going to burn 1,983 calories. So we'll use that to track his stats and see how much body fat he loses over the fast. All right, it's the end of day 1, and this is where we're sitting. So we're going to track distance traveled, total calories burned, this will add up over time, and then weight loss. I decided to break weight loss up into weight loss from energy, i.e. these burned calories, as well as water, because when you're doing a water fast like this, you're going to have electrolyte loss. So on the first day, he's probably going to have somewhere in the neighborhood of 1, maybe 2 pounds of water loss. I went conservative, but we'll keep track of that as well, and then we'll keep track of his stats. So at this point, he's lost a little over 1 pound. I went ahead and tracked his lean body mass also, just because that's needed to figure out body fat. But we'll track that over time, and we'll make sure that he's staying on track there as well. All right, how's he feeling? Feeling confident, probably pretty bored, and he's probably actually pretty hungry at the end of this first day. Risks to his health? Nothing. He's good to go. Right on, Josh. See you day 2. Day 2, checking in. Here's the distance traveled, calories burned, total weight loss. Here's updated stats, losing some body fat. Here's how he feels. Pretty tired, pretty grumpy, a little bit more hungry than yesterday. Risks, maybe some minor dehydration. That's just because of the water loss and electrolyte imbalances that he's going to be experiencing at this point. But overall, he's doing all right. All right, day 3. Things are actually getting interesting now. So here's his calories burned, here's his weight loss. At this point, I'm going to guess he's lost about 5 pounds worth of water weight. That's because he's flushing electrolytes at this point, because his body is burning off glycogen and it's switching over to using its fat stores for energy. So his weight's about 178. His body fat would actually be a little higher than 17% because, again, most of this weight loss is water. But here's how he's feeling. He's pretty exhausted. He's honestly at this point starving, and the mile's just getting tougher and tougher. His risk at this point, like we said, is electrolyte loss. All right, day 4. Here are the stats. Here's the updated weight. Day 4, something interesting's happening. He's actually feeling pretty good. He's not feeling as hungry, and he's feeling really clear-headed. This is actually because he started to switch over to ketosis. So he's starting to utilize his internal fat stores for energy, which is giving him this feeling of mental clarity, and it's actually down-regulating his hunger significantly. At this point, he still has some risk of electrolyte loss, as well as constipation because of those electrolyte imbalances. But overall, he's feeling pretty good. All right, it's day 10. Let's check back in. This is the amount of calories that we burned in total, which results in this much weight loss. Now, the problem is not all of that is coming from fat. As you can see, lean body mass is starting to go down a little bit. So you can see his biceps are getting a little droopy. His body fat's still at about 15%, so he's still doing good there. He still has plenty of energy to go. And as far as mentality, he's feeling pretty mentally clear because, again, he's in ketosis at this point, and his brain's actually enjoying that as a fuel. but his body's starting to get lethargic, maybe even uncoordinated, because he's having severe electrolyte deficiencies at this point. He's starting to lose a little bit of muscle, and because of that electrolyte deficiency, he's having a hard time retaining water and hanging on to water. So he may be getting severely dehydrated at this point. He's still gonna keep holding on, so let's check in a couple days. All right, fast forward to day 15, and things are really getting tough. This is the total amount of calories that we burned, and overall we've lost 8.5 pounds from energy. Some of this is coming from muscle at this point, and 6 pounds of water. At this point, we're having a super difficult time retaining water because the electrolyte deficiency is getting so severe. Now, as far as mental feelings, Josh is probably still feeling pretty mentally clear at this point, but he's probably swinging between feeling that way most of the time and having little bouts of feeling disoriented or confused. And in his body, he's probably feeling very lethargic. Now, his joints probably feel really good because he's been experiencing so much autophagy, and his body is actually recycling a lot of damaged tissue and doing some things that are very healthy for his gut microbiome. But in terms of immediate risks, this electrolyte deficiency and the dehydration are getting really, really bad. All right, it's day 20, and some really rough things are starting to happen. So first of all, his basal metabolic rate is starting to decrease. His body's slowing down his metabolism because it knows it's not going to get any food. So he's still burning a ton of calories every day and losing a ton of weight, but he's starting to slow his metabolism, which means he's going to get really, really weak in his body and also probably start to feel really cold. He's also still experiencing very severe dehydration, and at this point, it's possibly getting to the point where the electrolyte imbalances and the dehydration could be affecting his heart rhythm, his kidney function, so he could be developing kidney stones, as well as a ton of gastrointestinal issues. Now, he's really dropping weight at this point. He's losing muscle mass as well as body fat, and his body fat's starting to get really low, which again, his body's starting to recognize and slowing down his metabolism. At this point, he's really having a hard time, and this is truly the point where most humans would be in legitimate danger during a fast like this. All right, it's day 30, and Josh is feeling crushed right now. He's extremely hungry and thirsty. The hunger has started to come back because his body's now getting so low on stored energy that it's really starting to become a risk. So now he's having extreme hunger and thirst. His body's still feeling weak. He's still feeling cold, probably feeling headaches and weird mood swings at this point. Again, he's still battling with the severe dehydration. And at this point, it's possible, because of the electrolyte imbalances, that he may be experiencing some sort of delusion or hallucinations. At this point, hitting his 1 mile a day would actually be extremely difficult. And again, because he's getting so low on body fat, it's possible that he could be at risk of death at this point, honestly. All right, it's day 40. Josh has completed his 40-day fast. In total, he's lost 21.9 pounds. A decent amount of that was muscle, but now at this point, his body fat is extremely low. Now, it's certainly possible that he would have survived through this fast, even given all of these risks. There may be some residual issues that he might have to deal with, but most likely, if he's able to get a meal that's relatively healthy and solve the electrolyte and hydration problem, his body will rebound and recover fairly quickly, and he could recover from this fast in a pretty healthy way. Also, during this fast, something that's interesting is his body will have cleaned out a ton of dead tissue and dead cells. So in a way, his body would be like very healthy and cleansed after this. But again, at this point, he would be absolutely starving at 8% body fat. Like, honestly, dude might be looking at rocks thinking like, man, if only those were bread. But he's still got enough sanity to know that that's not true bread. All right, so here's the summary at the end of our 40-day fast. Josh went from 185 pounds to 157 pounds, losing 28 in total. He lost 12% of his body fat, and he also lost 3.8 pounds of lean muscle mass. In total, he burned over 76,000 calories. Think about how incredible that is, that his body, in the form of body fat and some lean tissue, was able to store 76,000 calories worth of energy for him, so he could survive this 40-day fast. The human body is truly incredible. All right, what does he need now? He desperately needs protein. He also needs some carbohydrates, and electrolytes are gonna be super, super important. This electrolyte imbalance that he had is probably gonna persist for a number of days, maybe even weeks. So he really needs to keep up on the electrolytes. And last, he just needs some rest and to keep eating and eating, which his body's going to stimulate his hunger to naturally do because his body fat's so low at this point. So here's the question: 40-day fast, is it possible? Yes, absolutely it's possible. Because of his stored body fat being used for energy via ketosis and the process of autophagy, i.e. cellular recycling, to essentially clean out his body, clean out his cells, and get the small amount of protein that his body needs, he would absolutely be able to do a 40-day fast. Now, it comes with a ton of risks. Absolutely not recommending that you do this. I'm not a doctor, right? Here's the disclaimer. But ultimately, the human body is incredible. Now, in case you think I'm yanking your chain on that, there was a recorded fast of 382 days. Now, this individual was extremely overweight to start with, so they had a ton of stored energy in terms of body fat, and they were also heavily medically supervised. They had electrolyte supplementation as well, so some of the things that would come into play with a longer fast, this individual had some help with. But not eating for 382 days is insane. The human body is insane. Many people have done 3 to 10 day fasts. I personally know many people who have done in excess of a 3-day fast all the way up to a 10-day fast. There are some individuals who even do like a 21 to 30-day fast. Now, if you're interested in fasting and this is something that you're starting to look into, absolutely do not start there. That's way overboard, right? Start small. Start with something like intermittent fasting, where you're doing 16 hours of your day not eating, 8 hours of your day eating, and start to feel things out, do some research. But fasting is an incredible tool, and I'm honestly stoked that it's starting to come more to the forefront and more people are starting to kind of recognize it. Mostly, guys, I just wanted to do kind of a fun video, and I thought this would be a cool topic given the time of year, and it's relevant. It's relevant to the channel. So if you like this one, if it was at least somewhat entertaining, drop me a like, subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this, and I'll be doing many more videos on fasting. All right, see you in the next one.